Ta-da. Just like
Ta-da!
that. Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the Witches Hour.
Practically perfect as always.
Pretty close. Pretty close. What about you there, Mr. Olofsson? How are you doing?
Good. Ready for the evening? Excited?
Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Do you remember that meme that I put inside the chat this morning where it showed a boy that's saying his nipples was hard? Michael Myers?
Yes.
That's how excited I am right now. So yeah, everybody, welcome to the show. Let's get to the chat here and say hello to everybody who's popping in. We got Laura. How are we doing? KMO Loves. Good evening. I'm not saying his name. I'm just going to say Eric. Justin, good evening to you. So yeah, we are the second episode into the Witches Hour. We got a Luna. You found us another cool guest.
Yeah. You're gonna love him.
A lot.
He's pretty fantastic, I'm not gonna lie.
Shall we bring him on?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Introduce him.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring you the Sea Wolf.
Good evening.
Hey.
Evening.
How are we doing?
How's everyone doing?
Doing good. How about yourself, buddy?
Kicking like a chicken. I see several close friends are in the chat already, so I'm sure more will show up, as I had let pretty much everyone know that I was going to be on this. So,
Awesome.
Cool.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Such a broad thing.
Where to start, right?
Where did I start? I started in a womb or a test tube. I'm not sure which one is can be proven, but I know what you're asking though. Like, where did I start as far as my path? Right? Is that what we're getting at there? Okay.
Yes.
That's what we talked about before. So, as I'd said, I think it was yesterday. I keep a lot of my private stuff kind of close to my chest. But what I will say is this. A chain of events happened when I was around the age of 8 years old. One was a major life-changing thing that was actually, I would say, traumatic. Something that, 8-year-olds shouldn't have to deal with. And then that same year, while the people I grew up with, we were vacationing down at a place we would always go to in San Clemente, California. I was out in the surf because the water has always been like home to me. And I took a wave a little bit out of my level of skill, you could say. And I actually ended up barrel rolling to the point of, I made it out, but I made it out choking out salt water. But in that particular situation, and some people would say, oh, lack of oxygen in the brain, biochemicals, you'll imagine this to see that. But I still believe down here that, despite what anyone wants to believe, that I had an interaction with a spiritual interaction. And I didn't know what this was until years later, but whatever that was at that time made me realize, even at 8 years old, that there was definitely something more to this world than what I was being fed to by the people that I was growing up with. Mm-hmm. And so much so, I've always been rebellious to where I even told these people I grew up with that I didn't believe any of their BS of what they were trying to make me believe. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this, just to give you the brief thing, I started expressing my interests in like these different things, and I didn't know how to describe them as 8 years old. My grandfather, who technically was my step-grandfather, but I always known, was a hardcore Catholic, but was probably the most amazing man I had as a kid. My very first book on this subject was a book about the Greek gods and goddesses. And that's when I first read about this goddess Calypso of the sea. At first I thought, But then as things evolved, and I started getting into my path, I realized it was the goddess Ron. And so now I'm 44, and it's evolved since then. And I do accredit the goddess Ran, Norse goddess of the sea, as the goddess that basically was that spark that started my spiritual path. And to this day, she is my matron goddess. She's the one that I'm all about. I mean, I do pay respect to the other ones, but Ron is definitely I got 3 altars in my house just dedicated to her.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, actually, was I've seen you speak about the Morrigan as well, and she is a Celtic goddess. But I wanted to know, like, do you pay attention to other goddesses from other different,
Oh, yeah.
houses?
See, if someone said, listen, bare bones, how do you describe yourself, spiritually? And I could say, well, yes, I lean towards the gods and goddesses of, the Scandinavian culture, of my Scandinavian roots and blood. But through my journey of these years, finding out that I have roots in other parts of Europe as well. Basically, my blood is a smorgasbord throughout Europe. And so I'm very fascinated. I've studied Baltics as far as the gods and goddesses there, Finland, Slavic, Hungarian, the Latvian, Iberian, Greek, Germanic, Celtic, all across. So I have a very much mixed, but of course my main fascination is with the various gods and goddesses of the sea, of all across the world, not even in Polynesian. I love Polynesian culture. I've got quite a few books. I've written about it, studied it. So I like to keep my book open to
keep it broad. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I really appreciate you sharing that story about your experience there with the ocean. That's a huge connecting point for a lot of pagan people in the community. It's that they've come to their beliefs or their belief system through an experience or something that really kind of woke them up, like you were mentioning, having had that traumatic experience. I talked to so many people that tell me that that's kind of what turned around for them, or how they found their way in it, was to have experienced something that really, really stood out to them. So it's a big connecting point.
I have found in my years, many years of this, decades, if you will, that, this isn't the golden rule, and I'm not generalizing, but I have noticed quite a large percentage of people that embrace what you want to call paganism, heathenry, which, practices, Druidism, whatever you want to call it. A lot of them at some point in their childhood or young adulthood experienced some level of trauma that caused this shift to either they were going to break and fall apart, or they were going to cling on to something greater than them that they could focus on and help evolve themselves spiritually, which transcribes into mental and physical well-being.
I think
when we go through that traumatic experience, everything that's taught or put on us or given to us kind of falls off. And in that moment, you're left with your core and your spirit and what means most to you and speaks most to you in that spirit. And so you make that connection there, and it's hard to ignore it thereafter. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, but you also do have, I don't want to get into this too much. You do have those who, as of the past, 5 years, have jumped on the bandwagon because of Hollywood and some TV shows and stuff. But yeah, I could go on a rant about that. But
I think pop culture works.
Not to say that some of them are genuine. It's just, I've seen a rise in some what I call the brosatrues.
It's another, I guess, form of cherry picking, to not really embrace in its entirety, but to say, I really like axes, I really like swords, I really like these tattoos, so I'm going to do this, but then miss all the rest of it, miss the good stuff. And that's what a lot of people are doing.
Which is exactly why, for years, I have posted videos, and you could, like, articles on Facebook that I've written up and stuff, which is now transcribed into my blog, about the parts of, you could say, the 3 tribes of the Norse gods and goddesses of lesser known gods and goddesses, and especially of the Thurzer, more commonly known as the Roker, but the third tribe. Some would say the Jotun, but Jotun only categorizes those beings from Jotunheim, because you also have Muspelheim and Niflheim and Svartalheim, and it goes beyond that. And there are other entities. People neglect such entities as Kari, the ancient Norse spirit god of the Norse winds, or of Logi, the ancient Norse spirit god of fire, and Hinla, she is very less known, but and Synthgunt, and the list goes on and on, of these other gods and goddesses that everyone wants to look at these top tier, pretty much Odin, Thor, Tyr, Freya, Frigga, Loki, Heimdallr, Sif, and a couple of others, but they ignore then all the rest.
Yeah. Sid had something he wanted to say, I think.
No.
No?
Well, I'm chilling like a villain.
I'm trying to not. I can sometimes have diarrhea of the mouth, so I'm trying not to.
It's okay.
There's some shows that you might find me sitting there silent because I'm just absorbing what's being said, and it's interesting that other people's different points of view about things. Me personally, I think as human beings and ourselves, we have to have something to believe in. We crave that. We have to be something. There has to be some sort of other higher power, and I think it's interesting to get other people's point of views about what makes their world spin and turn around. So I'm just sitting and chilling.
I've always been very inquisitive by nature. Ever since I was a kid, I was one of those kids who would sneak out in the middle of the night, 8, 9 years old, and go into a deep, dark forest behind the house, not afraid, wanted to see what the heck I could see and explore. And that went into my teenage years, and then even in the Coast Guard during my military career, I would soak up in any trade school or ACE school or other school or training or deployment thing that was offered to me, or even not. I would volunteer. I mean, my training record just got thicker and thicker and thicker because I was just wanting to learn everything. And that has also segued into my spiritual path of wanting to learn as much as I can. And I think that sometimes that gets lost with some people, where they get tunnel vision on one thing and they get too comfortable. I don't think you should be too comfortable in your spirituality personally. I think you should challenge yourself to go into the, as they say, the left-hand path, or the dark, chaotic side, which I talk about a lot, the importance of balance with your spirituality.
You have to understand both.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I agree with what you guys were saying earlier about everybody has their own certain defining moment in their lives that's when they have that tipping point where they kind of go full on with their spirituality, whatever path that may be. For me, it was more or less starting as a child in Christianity, then breaking that mold, and then I've had a lot of experiences in the Christianity world though too. I've been part of exorcisms. I've been a part of a lot of major events that goes on in Pentecostal churches. But once I started experimenting, it was always like a 30-year off and on path with me. When it was either Christianity or it was the left-hand path or witchcraft or any sort of pagan beliefs. It wasn't until I finally got myself sober where I had my defining moment where I was like, all right, I'm cleaning off of drugs now. Now, who am I? I had to rediscover myself. And then I found that in the process of rediscovering myself, I belonged in the pagan community.
I have 2 questions, actually. Oops. There they went. Oh, there it is. How do you bring the element of water into your life, being in Arizona and everything, and not going stir crazy for the ocean? And what brought you to Arizona?
Well, I have a lot of things from the ocean, from oceans all over the world, pretty much from every continent except for Antarctica, that I have in my house in almost every room. And even friends who have sent me preserved bottles of water from the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and even going all the way down to the coast of Tasmania and stuff. having the altars to the sea goddesses and gods kind of help. But honestly, it's a daily struggle. I pretty much these days exist out of sheer defiance and stubbornness. What brought me here is not a happy story. It involved trusting someone who I had promised my life to, and the ultimate betrayal happened. And yeah, I haven't been able to dig my way out of it since thus far.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
The most barren place in the United States is about Arizona.
yes. It was funny because he was it was a couple weeks ago, he was talking about how he really missed the water, and he got a nice big lake in the front yard. And everybody's like, "Oh, be careful what you wish for," you know. But
yeah, but
it's
see,
not the same. It's not
this,
salt water.
This wasteland is a. So yeah, we got a monsoon, but it destroyed the road that I live on, and I couldn't leave the house for basically like almost 2 weeks because we were waiting for the county to fix it up. So it's like, oh, here's your water, but you're gonna be stuck at your house. So it's like, where I live is one giant hypocritical, cruel joke. It's an oxy freaking moron is what it is.
Yeah. How does Sandy, like, well, actually, how did you come about Sandy, and what does she mean to you?
Sandy literally saved my life. Not figuratively, literally saved my life. When I wasn't in the old house, I was here with this person for more than 2 months when the bombshells dropped on me, basically leaving me with a lot of responsibility on my own, and my whole world come crashing down in a place I didn't even want to be in the first place. And I can say this now comfortably because, you know, I've done a lot of, you know, self-healing. I was at a low. I was at a real low. And by chance, I was driving to go get groceries, and I saw the sign for this place, a rescue place for animals. And I thought, what the hell? So I drove by, and I met Sandy when she was just a pup, about a year old. I took her home that day, and she, and has been for the last almost 12 years, giving me a reason to get up every morning. So she is literally like everything. But she isn't the only one, because through a series over the next couple of years, I ended up with 3 more. So I had a pack of 4. But unfortunately, over the last 4 years, 3 of them have crossed over, and now it's just Sandy and I again.
It's beautiful. I love how animals do that for us and become amazing companions and get us through the hard times.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing. But the one thing I will say though is that after I lost the other 3, I was just sitting. I remember, and Sandy was really sad about the whole thing. So I decided, you know what, Sandy and I are going to take a few trips. So Sandy has been to the Great Lakes. Sandy has put her feet in the Caribbean and in the Gulf and in the Atlantic, all the way from Florida to the Florida Keys, Mississippi. She has been in the Pacific Ocean from California all the way up to almost British Columbia. So I wanted her to enjoy that, even though it was only temporary. I was able to save up to do that for her and I. So she got to experience my mother matron's realm, at least just putting her toes in the water.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's about for us too. Life is a collection of experiences, and some are good and some are bad. And sometimes when that opportunity presents itself to do something like head way off somewhere, just to have that experience, because then you get to take it home, not physically, but the memories and the spirit that you felt there.
Oh, yeah.
It's all those experiences that make life well lived and worthwhile.
Absolutely. And I think that's very important. And I'm hoping that at some point, and hopefully while she's still alive, we're able to return back to the coast for good and never come back to this salty sandbox. I call this place the sandbox of Freya's cats. I'm pretty sure that Freya comes across as part of Midgard within her chariot, and her cats stop here to use the sandbox because this place truly is a freaking litter box.
Oh man.
Well, I've got a question for you. We were talking about experiences and how you get to take those home, and they make up a part of your life and sometimes change your life. We show with you sharing your first experience that brought you to paganism. Have you run across any other major instances or life changes in a positive way that have sort of changed your path? Because a lot of times we'll have that first one and feel, okay, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I practice. And then you'll have another one of those moments and it changes. And then another one of those moments and it changes. And have you had anything else that has, even in a negative way, but looking for more positive ways in your past that have occurred in your life as an experience that have changed your beliefs or your practice?
Yeah. I would say my early teenage years, I was kind of lost. I mean, I still was hanging on to something greater out there, and not in the monotheistic, but more of the polytheistic, you know? But I was at these crossroads where either I was going to end up homeless and probably in jail, or like they were going to kick me out like as soon as I graduated, or I needed to find some way to excel. And that's when, well, actually, I was recruited by the Coast Guard, and I said, yeah. And back then, when I joined, the Coast Guard was the hardest branch to get into. But without getting into all that, basically, when I joined the Coast Guard boot camp, went to my first units, they embraced me. I went to a very specialized unit where someone at straight out boot camp just doesn't go to at that time. And I had all these, you could say, old timers. They embraced me. Next thing you know, I'm being invited to like family barbecues. They're checking up on me, coming by, and they just, that was the first time I actually experienced what it meant to have a family, because I didn't have that as a kid, really. And that in itself, that whole kinship thing, that really is a big part of like spirituality, you know? Mm-hmm. That's when I first learned that side of it, really. And that was another step in the evolution of me now. The other very significant thing that really, about almost midway through my Coast Guard career, I met someone. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into it, but she was actually more of like you could say like a Druidic Celtic kind of pagan. She was in the Coast Guard also. And that was the first time I had actually experienced what it was really like to have someone like genuinely love me, care for me, and be interested in what I was interested, not so much on an intimate level that was there, but really on a spiritual level. And I hadn't had that before. I mean, briefly, maybe with my grandfather who got me that book because he heard me talking about some stuff and all that. But that was definitely another step in because I was like, wow, here's this woman who is generally interested in the things, because most of my Coast Guard career, I was pretty much like a lone wolf. I mean, I had other friends that kind of dabble in some things, but for pretty much the whole of my Coast Guard career, except for that point, I pretty much just kept my stuff to myself. Not because I wasn't proud of it. It's just because that's just how I was engineered in my head from childhood. Just keep my shit to myself. It wasn't until after I retired that just through, you could say a chain of events, I started meeting others through social media or whatever. So, and without getting into the details, because again, I like to keep some, I have had some very negative things that like happened overseas and stuff that have impacted as well, which really brought me into embracing more of, you could say, the darker side of things. So,
fun stuff.
Yeah.
We should take a quick break. We're going to take a quick musical break, run a couple of ads, We'll come back, chat with Seawolf some more. Maybe we'll ask some questions about this dark side that he was exploring. That sounds fun.
Do that.
So what we're going to do, we're going to play one of our Inner Demon Media Hall of Fame bands. This is Forever May Fall with their song Undertow. We'll grab you some drinks, chips, whatever it is you want to do. It's your opportunity. We'll be right back, guys.
This is Raven with Metal Devastation Radio and Metal Devastation PR. We'd like to invite you all out to the Tennessee Metal Devastation Music Fest, Saturday, October 8th at Beach Lake in Lexington, Tennessee. We have 13 bands, we have food vendors, craft vendors, beautiful outdoor lake setting, hopefully gorgeous October weather. Tickets are only $25 online. They're $35 at the gate. So come on out, hang out with us, enjoy some food, and bang your head.
disconnected, drowning in the undertow, baptized by demons we know. Ignore the wreckage, swallowed by another world, baptized by demons we know. We're disconnected, drowning in the undertow, baptized by demons we know.
Yo, it's the Outlaw Josie Scott inviting everybody out to Growlers in Memphis, Tennessee. It's going to be my first time on stage in Memphis in 10 years. October 22nd, baby. Growlers, Halloween party. It's going to be scary. See what I did there? Loyal Memphian. coming at you. Here I come, Memphis.
What's up, everybody? This is Corey from the band Carbon Stone, and you are watching Inner Demon Media. Rock on.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Witches Hour.
Hey.
You guys go
That's
potty?
pretty cool that you got commercials for your media.
Well, I've just made a lot of friends, and it's just my way of supporting the community, I guess.
I like that.
So welcome back, everybody. And let's talk
Welcome
about
back.
your Sea Wolf, about some of this dark side of yours.
That's actually one of my favorite topics as far as spirituality. I talk about that a lot. I call it the balance. See, and not to, you got these people that are always chanting about love and light, love and light, love and light. And hey, you know what? If that's your barbecue, fine. But frankly, I prefer things a little bit more. Here's how I best explain it. This is kind of a description I use. If you're in the light, shining bright all the time, and suddenly the lights go out, you're going to be blind, disoriented, not know what the heck to do. You're going to be just completely stirred around, scared, vulnerable, and all that. But if you're in the darkness all the time, and then the lights turn on, you're going to be blind, disoriented, not know what the hell to do. So I think it's essential that people break from their comfort zones, whichever side, you explore both sides, because balance, and you see balance. Let's just talk about, like we say, Norse paganism specifically. If you look at the different gods and goddesses, there's a balance. There's a balance between Odin and Loki. There's a balance between Thor and Jormungandr. There's a balance between the Aesir and the Thursar. There's a balance between life and death and chaos and order, and it goes on and on and on.
I mean, Ganungagap itself is fire and ice.
Exactly. And that is one of the most essential things that's spoken about. You know, is Gangunappa's with Niflheim and Muspelheim. So for me, I basically like to walk as I call the gray line. I'm not totally left hand. I'm not totally right hand. I'm not totally chaos. I'm not totally order. I believe that it's essential that people that are only the whole love and light perhaps take a dive into the dark and chaotic, because that, for me personally, will make you a stronger person. It's just like this. And I'm not trying to express favoritism, but it's in my opinion that people that have experienced trauma and then start diving into their spirituality, they understand this better than maybe those who grew up in a well-structured, loving, functional family. And that's nothing against them. That's fine. I'm just saying that this is from my own personal experience of my path and people I've known. So I always encourage people to not be afraid to challenge themselves, to look into, and some people like to use the cognation saying that dark means evil. Specifically with Norse paganism, the concept of good and evil, that's more of a Christian ideology, doesn't exist. There is no such thing as good and evil. You could say right and wrong, but this is the problem I see today, and this is sometimes no fault of their own. People that I don't like to use the word conversion. That's a term I don't like. People that decide to transfer themselves spiritually from a Abrahamic religion into more of a pagan path, sometimes subconsciously bring some of that ideology into that, and then at no fault of their own, through child engineering, if you will see certain things and be like, ooh, that's evil. That's like Loki's evil, Odin's good. Well, let me just say this. There's nothing written about Loki forcing himself upon a woman. Odin, however, I'll leave it at that.
Well, I like your run on darkness. In my personal path, I kind of see it not a bad thing, but the dark is the unknown. We can't see what's in the dark. And so your faith or your spirituality is that light. It's that love and light, but it's like a candlelight in the dark. You're surrounded by the unknown in the universe and the cosmos, and the more you grow your faith and spirituality, the brighter your candle burns, and you get to see just a little bit further. But that's kind of it still. There's always going to be that dark. There's always going to be that unknown.
Exactly. And that, in a way, can prepare someone. It's like the whole thing of like shadow work, you know, where you got to look into yourself and you got to look into like quote, your inner demons or, you know, your inner conflicts or whatever and work that out. If you're not prepared to step foot into that darker side, then, and this is something I've worked on very hard the last 10 years because someone who suffers from PTSD, who served overseas, who's seen a lot of stuff that I'm not going to talk about here. I fell way too deep into the dark side, admittedly, where I was just like, screw the love and light. I want nothing to do with it. But that was actually being a detriment to myself. So I had to get out of my comfort zone to be like, okay, what's on the other side of that line, you know? And once I did that, it became easier and easier and easier for me to finally get that balance. It's not easy, but once you do it, and I'm still working. I'm 44 years old. I'm not even close to reaching anything. I have this this personal thing that I say, the moment I stop learning, stop evolving, is the moment I begin to die. So I'm always trying to better and evolve myself, not just spiritually, but just as a person, you know, in the flesh.
I think that's important that you said that. Sorry. I think that's important that you said that above all. It's not about so much about the spirituality as much as you're trying to better your person, yourself. And when you're better in yourself, whatever you do in your craft is going to be better in itself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, Liz,
I just wanted to say I made the mistake. I'm getting off track here for just a second. I made the mistake of not introducing the new co-host. Papa Olofsson came to us last week for a show and he stuck around. So thank you for joining Inner Demon Media and being here, being a part of this, and welcome.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to hang out with some awesome people and talk to more awesome people.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about this is, Luna, is that, well, I'm pointing the other. See, the camera's reversed.
Yeah.
This guy next to me here, we've known each other for, I don't know, a number of years.
Several years now.
I think like 3 or 4 years we've known each other. So I definitely give my approval as far as co-host with this guy, that guy.
Yeah.
It's all mirrored. You know, the other one, the bearded guy, the other bearded guy. There's 3 of us, you know.
I guess you can stay around for a
I
while.
have been following the Sea Wolf on social media for years now, and watching his work and watching it progress and develop. And I did want to ask you, as a fellow craftsperson, just out of sheer curiosity, I know you've got your style of doing things and you do amazing work and you make a lot of really original creations. But I know that your knowledge spans all across the board, whether it be Elder Futhark runes or Ogam or anything. But you do custom orders. You do custom work and you take requests.
Yeah.
Have you ever got any sort of custom request that has found you outside of your comfort zone or wheelhouse in terms of crafting? Have you got anything that's kind of pushed you to try something that you're maybe not comfortable with to produce a piece for somebody?
You know, I'm always pushing myself. So there are pieces that you'll see where I'm pushing myself, but I can think of one very interesting story, and I'll try to keep it short. Great example of this. A dear friend of mine. She's originally from Portugal, but she lives in Switzerland. She's lived in Switzerland for years. When I first met her, I had no idea that she was a Christian. No idea. Because I don't, you know, just we met, we connected really well just as friends, and we've been friends ever since, like for 7-8 years. And then about a year into our friendship, we were talking privately, and she's confiding me where she's conflicted between her faith. So she simply asked if I could provide her some books about gods and goddesses or whatever, which I did. Long story short, over the course of the next year, she would ask me questions. I would, send her stuff. And now she is very much more of the, I guess you could say like her matron goddess now, and she's very much a genuine practitioner, is Lilith, not the Christian Lilith, the actual Lilith goddess. And so, and I only knew a bit about Lilith. So she came to me like 2 years ago and said, Eirikr, I have this altar I'm putting together for Lilith, a devotional. I would like you to make me a centerpiece dedicated to Lilith. I'd never done that before. So I said, give me some time. I immediately delved into books, reading, talking to friends, all that, because I wanted this to be an absolute, very genuine piece. I came up with something. I showed it to her. She was practically in tears. I shipped it to her all the way to Switzerland, and it's been the center of her altar piece ever since.
Awesome.
That's got to make you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I challenge myself, and I'm not sure how it's going to look like, especially with it, I've had people also say, I have a general idea. I want this, but just surprise me. Like they gave me complete artistic license, and I created something, and I'm not one to brag, but I'll just state what is true. Every single time they said something to the extent of, wow, that was more incredible than anything I could have envisioned. So I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
It's just
that
nice
brings
to
it all
hear.
home there. When you get that sort of feedback and those reactions from your customers and your clients, that's it. It brings it all back. And
I get a buzz from it. To be fair, I do what I do because I love the interaction with the audience and the people out there that enjoy whatever form of work it is. Right? You're putting all this time and energy and your magic into these artworks and pieces, whether it's crafts like you fellas do, or it's what I do on video and entertainment media and radio shows, and we're putting our passion, we're putting our touch, we're putting our magic, we're putting all this into what we do. It's just nice to hear the positive feedbacks and the things that you do. You put so much hard work into it.
when that appreciation is expressed by your audience or your client or your customer, it's invigorating, it's motivating, and it's inspiring to keep doing and to keep bettering.
Well, I didn't start my craft for the purpose that it is now. About 6 years ago, I was reaching another, you could say, self-evolutionary step in my spirituality, where I wanted to put my spirituality, my knowledge, my practice into something tangible. And I started doing that, and I was just sharing it on Facebook, sharing with friends. And then it turned to where people were like, I will love something like that, love a piece like that. So I would trade them for something. And then I started sharing my practice of Galder, which is the Icelandic form of Norse magic. And a dear friend of mine who is a true Volva of Iceland, her mother's a Volva who I know, and I'm just a retired Yankee coastie from Oregon who likes a lot of rum and's got a foul mouth and just happens to be dedicated to spirituality. And this woman, out of anybody, hones in on me and basically takes me under her wing, which has been an honor because we're still friends to this day, and I still consult with her about knowledge and practices and the path. You know, I'll never be a Volva because that's not how it goes. That's how it works. But I'm definitely a practitioner that's evolving himself in that. Point being is that not just her, but several others were all, you need to share this more and more and more. So it just, through, again, an evolutionary process, turned into what is now the Utsavetter craft.
And it wasn't easy getting there. Like, I watched you struggle a lot, but you kept going. You didn't give up, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting sometimes how, even though we can pick a path, our path, we find out later, guided us instead. You didn't
Yeah.
plan to make this your work or your craft or
No, absolutely
your
not.
thing. Is it came to you in that way, and now it's
Forces itself on us.
a bit of way of a life.
You ain't doing this. No,
Why?
no, no. You want to do
I
this.
wanted it to be more than this business of me putting genuine practice and honoring what I do. And that's why I also started the blog on my website, because I wanted to share and have this vast, so my personal goal is to make my blog the best pagan, heathen, witchery, spiritual kind of paranormal blog there is. That's my goal. I've even recently opened up a guest blogger category where I'm inviting people to come in to post stuff on certain subjects as far as what you would see on my blog, which has started recently, because no one has ever charged me a monetary value or had any kind of expectations as far as like, I'm going to do this for you, but you have to do this for me, as far as sharing knowledge with me. All right. That's what I'm trying to say. So ever since I came on the social media, when I've shared knowledge, I've always said, I'm going to share this with you. You don't have to take it as, solid word. Take from what of it that resonates with you, and you can leave the rest. And I'm only doing this because I feel it's necessary for me to share. It's just like when I was in the military, in the Coast Guard. I knew other senior petty officers, non-commissioned officers, that would go to specialized schooling, and they wouldn't share that knowledge with their subordinates because they wanted to preserve themselves to gain higher. I was that one freaking cunt that would come out there, and I'd grab all my subordinates and say, hey, look at this new stuff I just learned. I'm going to show it to you step by step because I want you to know this stuff too.
Yeah.
That's how I've always been.
You're wanting to travel the world and share that wisdom and knowledge with everyone, correct?
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
would rather have a handful of aces than for me to be the only king. You want to bring the people up around you.
Yeah.
So I think Sean Smith had mentioned in the comments earlier that gatekeeping is still very much a thing in the pagan community when it comes to information and knowledge. So when you share, that's a special thing, and it's moving the community forward. It's educating people. It's helping people to find their understanding, and even inspiring people to dig a little bit deeper and do their own homework when you share something from what you've learned. I'm also a proponent of not spoon feeding. So let me add an amendment to this. I will openly give information, but I'm not going to spoon feed. So let's say I give like information on a general topic or share something. But I will also not, and this is not a gatekeeping thing because I want people to challenge. I'll say, listen, here's a source, go look at it. Because I'm not going to do the homework for you. Because no one did the homework for me. So it's more like I'll express something and the person will come to me, tell me more about this. I'll just send them a link or a link to a book or something and say, go check that out. And they'll say, no, I'm not going to give you page 53 through 64 paragraphs, blah, blah, blah. No, you've got to go look at, you've got to do the homework, because with this type of spirituality, if you're not willing to do the homework, you might as well go sit in a pew and then stand up, kneel, go on the line, yada, yada, because that's not how this works.
It's kind of like pushing someone who doesn't know how to swim into the water, and they've got to learn how to,
Exactly.
Yeah, you can share and share and share, but you still have to learn for yourself and find your understanding of what you're looking for. We could both read the same exact story in the same exact translation, word for word, and each take different value or different meaning from it as it relates to our person or our practice. So yeah, doing it yourself is so important. Even though you're getting the story, you're hearing it told by somebody else, you're getting that information, still check this, still do that work yourself.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts, Sid?
Again, that's not gatekeeping. That's
no.
That's being a true. I'm not going to say I don't like putting myself in a. Some people say I'm a mentor, whatever. I can't change how people label me, but I'll say a true mentor, like my dear friend in Iceland. challenges me to expand my knowledge by giving me this much and saying, now go this direction, or you can go this direction. Whereas gatekeepers say, I am the know-all, I am the end-all. If you do not follow exactly what I say, you're wrong, you're ostracized, you're not part of my kinship or whatever. And that's when I'll tell them to go fuck off, because I'm just not,
I don't see an issue why it's such an issue would be anyway for somebody to put in the work anyway. I mean, sure, you can guide them in the right direction, but there still has to be a process of them putting in the work if they're really truly wanting to learn.
This goes back to what I talked about earlier of the ideology that's subconsciously still engineered and beaten into some people's heads, that maybe they were part of some Abrahamic religion and now they're breaking free from that. And again, it's not necessarily a fault of their own, but they spent years where they had one person once a week telling them exactly what they were supposed to believe and how they were supposed to do it. So, and that can be very difficult to break that.
They leave that pastor in the church and come to the pagan community and find more pastors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what's comfortable for them. But what they don't realize is that's a detriment to them. Because they're swapping one color apple for another fucking color apple.
That, and it's
Just coming off
happening,
the second
I
tree.
think, a lot, and it's instigated by social media, and people want a following. They want to be, someone to be looked to. Everybody wants to be looked to and inspiring, but people really, really want a following. It's good for their person. It's good for their ego. It makes them feel nice. And so I think that's where a lot of gatekeeping has come from, is that desire for a following. But I've maybe pissed a few of those people off on my path because I tear that following down. So find it yourself, live your truth, discover your truth, learn your truth. You can do it.
All I'll say is this. There are two, I'm not going to throw out names, but there are two very well-known Norse pagan organizations in this country that I have gone loggerheads with, and they don't like me, and I'm totally fine with that because I pissed off several of their heads for calling them out on stuff. And I don't really, I don't lose any, I don't sleep anyways, but I don't lose any extra sleep over, that, because I am who I am. And
I've had many battles with the pagan heathen community myself throughout the past few years, where I've had groups of them just come at me over something so simple as using a title heathen for a heathen, just the word heathen. If you piss off so many fucking people. I couldn't believe how many people I pissed off just using the word heathen.
I've talked about that before, and it's so ridiculous. People, like the whole heathen versus pagan thing is such stupid, minuscule garbage, because technically, at one point in time in history, heathen was a derogatory word, and so was pagan. And here's how I explain it. Here's how I look at it. Don't allow a word that was once derogatory be used as a weapon now. Take that, flip it, and use it as a word of power, of spiritual positive growth. Whether you want to call yourself a heathen or pagan, stop bickering about which one is bad, which one is good. Yes, you could go into the etymology of it and blah, 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 and all this crap, but you can do that with so many words across the freaking English, all kinds of languages. So, it's ridiculous. The amount of infighting and all of that, my word's better than your word crap, just whatever.
The infighting is why I've left a lot of online groups that are centered around paganism. And
Me too.
Everybody has their opinion, everybody has their idea, and instead of coming together on common ground, those little differences have proved so divisive in the community that it's just such a huge turnoff. And I think a lot of younger people and newer people are coming in and expecting like kindred and community and all this love and embracing and let's sit around a fire together. And then they're seeing all the strife and the infighting that happens when people try to put way too many people together with way too many opinions and ideas. And it doesn't work well online.
The biggest issue I've seen with that is ego. Ego can kill communities. Ego can kill kindreds. Ego can destroy unification, because these people, they get a little bit of a following and suddenly they think they're freaking King Tut, and now they want everybody to freaking lick their boots. I've never been like that. Never. I don't care about how many people are on my Facebook friends list. I don't care how many people follow me on TikTok or Instagram or wherever. I have always been, even since I was a kid, I've always been about quality over quantity. I don't need to be popular. I don't desire to be popular. But if one person randomly finds my content and one little snippet of that resonates with them and causes that whole butterfly effect to maybe they're able to veer onto a path that really helps them, then I've done my fucking purpose.
Yeah.
It should be organic.
Yep. That's it. That's the key. Organic. That's yes, absolutely.
Before we get going, do you have a piece to show the audience that you've been working on or that is finished?
Most of my stuff's like wrapped up. I'm currently working on a piece right now, but it's not really like healing. I could show you something I made. Hang on, I'll show you something. It's not for sale. It's a personal piece. A very talented craftswoman in the Netherlands made a custom drinking horn for me with my half Ulfr Seawolf stave, and then did the Loki sigil on it.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And then I made,
beautiful.
this is the one of a kind, I made a very special drinking horn stand.
Oh,
That's a coyote skull from Oregon, deer antler from Oregon, and it's something like that.
That's awesome.
nice. That is awesome.
So, yeah, which I'll be using here shortly. But yeah, I mean, really the best, if you want to see, like, and I'm not saying go and buy, if you want to just check out my stuff, then, you know, there's my website where I actually not only do I have the store, I have a gallery of stuff I've made. But, you know, that's probably the best place to check out what I make, because it's a wide variety.
Well, drop the website. Tell everybody where they can find you.
If they can spell it, it's, well, maybe I could have someone in the comments put down, because I got several friends in there. It's osvettercraftsman.com, which I think
One of your partners, when we go back here later on after the show is over, I'll drop a link into the chat room so everybody can click right there. Make it easy.
Cool.
So yeah, good show, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, there, Seawolf.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really, really nice. Yeah.
It was nice
Good to get to know you better.
Yeah, it's good. I love meeting people, connecting with people, hearing their stories, hearing their beliefs. Because I mean, like you guys said earlier, it's all about we never stop learning, right? We never stop growing. No matter, I'm 48 years old, and I'll never stop learning until the day I die. So that's why I love doing these type of shows where we're meeting new people, we're discovering new things, and new things we can possibly all take in our path as well. So thank you for sharing space with us tonight.
Very welcome. Thank you for having me.
I'd have you on the show again at some point here in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll drink some mead with you with my horn. If I knew about what we would drink tonight, I'll be drinking with you.
I'll drink to that.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in with us tonight. Great show, Luna and Papa. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight as well, co-hosting us. And you guys, we will catch you next week for another The Witches Hour. Until then, guys, be safe, be well, and catch you guys on the flip side.
Stay backstage.
Okay.
Stay backstage.
Wait, me or him?
Stay backstage.
Stay
You.
backstage. You stay
will.
backstage.
Where Forever May Fall, and you're watching Inner Demon Media.